East National Library, in conjunction with the Office of Education Research, National Institute of Education, is proud to present to you Education in the City. Please welcome everybody, Dr. Teng, Siao. Dr. Teng, please.
I think values have been talked about a lot these days, and I think in Singapore's education system we have focused on it quite a bit. I mean, in the past we had like civics, moral education, but there was this re-emphasis again, I think 2011 onwards. If these values are so important, how are we supposed to inculcate it? Perhaps Dr. Myra as well as Dr. Suzanne Choo, right, also part of this collective efforts, trying to clarify the role of literature education in terms of imparting values.
Your Friday evening, I am happy to say, is about literature. It's about reading. It's about the power of narratives and how it can possibly teach children values, or how children can possibly catch those values on their own as you share with them these kinds of authentic narratives. So I think if there is one thing that I'm hoping that you can take away from my 30-minute talk with you, is that they serve as mirrors and windows. Why mirrors and windows? Mirrors because they see the children, the young reader, sees themselves reflected in the narratives that they read. So for a singular moment, they don't feel alone. They don't feel isolated. They feel seen. That their experience is not just unique to them, but is maybe shared by other people from around the world. Now, why windows? Windows because very young people do not have that breadth of experience as yet. So windows because it allows them portals to other life narratives that they're not yet familiar with, but somehow through the pages of a book, they will have access to. Okay? So mirrors and windows. So if you do read authentic, diverse narratives, it can contribute to the development of empathy. So someone has already mentioned that earlier. So you're able to validate the lived experiences of children. Why does it validate? Okay, so it also promotes respect and understanding between cultures. It's difficult to hate that which you know. First and foremost, your children should catch you reading, which is the reason why I asked you initially, what was the last book that you read, on your own? Because how can you introduce a variety of reading materials if you don't even know that those materials exist in the first place?
My argument today is that values can be taught, okay? And you and I, parents, teachers, we play a very important role in teaching of values. The ancient philosophers knew this. They said the center of education is actually ethics and values. So when we think of values, you think of those Boy Scout values, honesty, bravery, all this, okay? Now I'm going to focus instead on what I call 21st century values. And why I call 21st century values is because these values are particularly important today. Okay, number one, empathy. Are they able to empathize and see from someone else's point of view? Second, hospitality. Hospitality is not tourism, okay? Hospitality is, can you be open to different viewpoints, different beliefs, okay? Criticality is, are you able to critique and look beyond the surface of meaning? And informed response, are you able to have an opinion and not simply follow what people say, okay? And active citizenship, can you be involved and engage in social global issues? So let me tell you about what are some qualities of good literature, okay? Good literature is complex. The characters are complex. The events are rich and immersive. When you read a text, you feel that you are in this world. But I want to tell you one thing about great literature. It's violent, okay? Now, literature depicts violence, but it doesn't endorse violence. It doesn't teach violence. It teaches children to empathize with those who suffer because of violence. And if you want our children to be empathetic, you have to get them to read texts that have certain degree of violence. If you don't, they will be in this bubble, okay? And they won't understand other children going through this kind of issues in the world. And the first step is actually to expose your children to the wide range of young adult literature from around the world. So I do hope we ourselves have to, like Myra said, be readers, okay? Then we can encourage our kids to be readers.
Is empathy necessarily always a good thing? Because I'm concerned about how we look at empathy as something that is always a good thing, and could there be sort of unintended sort of consequences of treating empathy as such?
There's a difference between sympathy and empathy, okay? When you sympathize with someone, you are still in a position of power. The person is still the victim. But when you empathize with another, you are stepping into the shoes of the other. It's a different position. And going back to the question about why empathize, is it important or not? I think it goes back to the philosophy of empathy, which I'll sum up in the philosopher Immanuel Kant's words. It is to treat other people as an end and not as a means.